Hi everyone, welcome back to Kingdom College. It's Celine and we'll be going through Power Reading Test 20 today. But before we begin, I want to try something different. I want to give you guys some pointers before and also after we go through the text. We will most likely only be able to go through the first two excerpts. So yeah, let's just get started on some pointers I want to give you guys. So for the very first extract, we have a poem, right? And the second extract is also a bit poetic. So we're looking at two creative pieces. And I really want you guys to just watch out for the tone of the text. So I put in the screen like the general feeling. So do you feel perhaps like you're being rushed, or do you feel like it's very calm and slow? Do you feel very like romantic and all like butterflies and giggly? Just really dwell on how you feel whilst you're reading that text. I do understand that English might not be everybody's favorite subject, and maybe you're a bit disinterested in the text, but just really try and understand and listen to the text, or like listen to what the composer is trying to communicate, since that is what the question is asking you. And if you'd like to do well obviously in English, then that's just something you'll have to do. Yeah, so just watch out for that, because it'll help you find your own voice as well, your own perspective, your own takes, which is really great in English, even if it's just multiple choice like here. Mainly though for when you write your own responses. Secondly, we're going to be looking at a lot of poetic writing, and poetic writing is basically when you romanticize whatever is going on. Okay, so I've put in the romanticization of narrating. Okay, so you make something sound much more better, prettier, more romantic than it actually is. And you just make it sound a bit more beautiful, it's a little bit more dramatic. The issue with this type of writing, like whilst it is incredibly descriptive and emotional and connective, right, is that sometimes it can be a little bit convoluted and you as the audience might get a little confused, which is completely understandable, right? So that's why it's important to just really take a look at the text and try and deconstruct that said romanticization. Like, what kind of metaphor are they using? And maybe in your head, you can just try and get rid of that metaphor to try and figure out what is actually happening. So yeah, those are just some pointers I want to give you guys before we begin the first two extracts. Okay, so let's get started with the first extract, which is Snake. It's a poem. So please take some time to read this in your own time, sorry. And yeah, so the very first question we have is, like, the poet's description of the snake is one of ugliness, unpleasantness, elegance, or despair. Now, if you take a look at the poem, well, it's relatively short, and we do have a little sense of fear, right? We have a little bit of abruptness, right, with the very first word being sudden. Okay, we also have like horror, right? So we have a little bit of fear of this snake, but there's this calming aspect to it, right? So we have graceful smoothness. Okay, slithers, right? Slithers by like that's just a very like quiet way of like getting out of a situation. Usually it's like a snake, like, because it is a snake, right? It's like running around, like going against like the ground as well. And yeah, so it's the answer for this question would be C. Like, it's the snake is elegant, okay, because it's a very smooth creature. It's there's no harsh there's no like harsh like attack here, right? The snake twists, almost leaps, graceful even in terror, right? We have this sense of, well, this grace or elegance, right? This sense of care, cautiousness, and there's this calmness, right? Even though the human or the writer is afraid of the snake, right? The snake though remains calm, which is, yeah. Now for question two, the poem is unusual in that, hey, we don't think people are afraid of snakes. Already this is false, because snakes, being afraid of snakes is quite common, and also snakes are very poisonous, so it's understandable why people are scared. It only has 2 verses. That's not really true. It's actually most modern poems are actually quite short nowadays. Most modern poems are from contemporary poets are pretty short actually. See, not many people are 7 feet tall. So we're actually trying to take a look at we're trying to take a look at the poem as a whole, right? And this is an observation, sorry, on the human. And I'm not sure if you guys kind of noticed, but these 4 lines is like the snake trying to reflect on what has happened, and 7 feet tall like must have been, right? It's like it's an estimate guess, right? So that's like it's an exaggeration, hyperbole, right? So it's not it's not true. What am I picking? Oh, sorry, yeah. So now for D, we don't expect snakes to be afraid of people. This is the correct one because it's true, like especially with the response in the first stanza, the human is deathly afraid of this snake, right? So it doesn't really make sense for the snake to be afraid of the human because we think, oh, snakes are so poisonous. So yeah, it's just a not new concept. It's just a unique idea, I guess. And number 3, I've kind of mentioned it before. The last 4 lines are imagined by spoken by the snake, right? It cannot be an onlooker because if it was an onlooker, well, firstly, they wouldn't have said like, oh, must have been 7 feet tall. Keep away from the long grass and it's dangerous there. An onlooker probably wouldn't be like an onlooker would probably be afraid of the snake, but not the human. The poet, this one is not true because that the poet did not see another 7 foot person. A monster, I think I can understand why some students would get this one, but we just need to be specific with who it is, like a snake, or like not a snake, sorry, it should be like the snake, or like a monster. A monster, like the article of a is basically just saying like anything, right? So that's why it can't be that. Oh, sorry, I should have circled this one. So yeah. Okay, so now for the second extract, we have a fictional text. The extract is My Two-Wheeled Catastrophe by Patrick McManus, sorry. So once again, please read this in your own time. I'd just like to take some time to just note the highlighted words in this text. So in your test, this might be a similar thing because your questions might have them, but for some of these questions, or these 2 questions, they actually don't have it's not needed for, like, these highlighted words don't need to be highlighted, or at least for most of them, at least, like dead man's drop, cresting, and descent, right? But it would still be kind of important for you to know, like it would be very useful for you to know, like, for example, by rights it should have been called dead man's drop, right? So this phrase, like the word dead man's drop, that's the hill, and I think that this is it's an interesting name, right? Because this story is about basically how the main character fell from this cliff, saw the wolf, right? So it's a very big exaggeration for what kind of events happen at this hill. Yes, and same with like cresting and descent, right? Descent, like falling down, cresting, like kind of going up-ish. Yeah, so just like it would just be I think useful for you guys to just know certain parts, so you also get a feel of the text, right? And yeah, so let's get started with question 4. And use my nose as a break suggests that what? So we have the highlighted part over here, right? Now it's important for us to know the main event that's going on, right? So I would say about like this paragraph, more specifically around like the like 2-3 sentences before it, right? And maybe even after as well. You can take a look at that. I would say about here, right? So the chain shows it eat my trouser leg. This is an interesting form of personification in case you guys aren't really aware. It would be nice, once again, to note some techniques in the text. I expected to be left by the front wheel at any minute. With one last effort, I aimed a kick at a wolf, ripped my trouser leg free, and threw myself into space. So this sentence, I really want to focus on this one, okay? How they threw themselves into space. So at this point, they're not on their bike anymore, right? They basically like fell or they threw themselves, right? So they're no longer on their bike. I bounced 4 times and used my nose as a brake. Now, this phrase, used my nose as a brake, it's, well, brakes, brake, B-R-A-K-E, are used in like bikes, cars, any vehicles of transportation, basically, to stop that vehicle, right? Now, in this context, they're saying that they're using their nose to basically stop the impact, okay? Or yeah, they're trying to stop the impact, and or they're trying to prevent some sort of injury. Even though the nose would probably break, right? So the answer for this one is A, the accident threw the cyclist's head first off the bike. So assuming that this person is up in the air, right? And they want, the first thing that would basically be hit is their nose, right? And in order for that to happen, they need to have their face like basically on the wall or on the ground first, right? So that's why we're saying head first off the bike, because this accident would have threw them up in the air, and they're trying to use their nose as a brake, or they're trying to use their nose to stop their body from having further injuries, basically. So they would need to have their face like land first. Yeah, not that it's preferable, it's just what the text is saying, right? So that's why the answer is A. For B, this couldn't have been the answer. Like, the cyclist didn't have any brakes on the bike because they're talking about the nose. The cyclist must have had a large bony nose. This is not really relevant. This is more of a description. But yeah, this is mainly because we have a verb. We have a verb here, like I used my nose, right? So we're not looking for a description. We're looking for what actually happened. And in order to say what actually happened, you need to use an action word or a verb, right? Now, D, the cyclist didn't understand what was happening. I actually really disagree with this answer, because I think the cyclist does know what they're doing, right? If you're planning to let your nose hit first so that you can lessen the impact of an accident, I actually think that's very quick, like very witted, like very witty thinking, like very quick. It's like a plan, basically, right? Not necessarily a smart plan, but just a plan, right? It's quick-witted. Now, question 5: the writer's mother probably bought the car because A, her friend sold it to her very cheaply. Now, we find out that the mother bought the car. The last 3 sentences, okay? When I was up and about once more, my mother bought a car. She got it from a local friend who built it with his own 3 hands, but that's another story. The 3 hands part is really the important thing, right? Also, the fact that the mother got this car instantly. I'm not sure if you guys know the process of purchasing a car, but there's like contracts, and usually when people like want to have a car, you think about it for a while. It's a very big investment. It's, cars, like new cars nowadays, I think maybe like $30,000 or something, right? You need some time to save up. And also there's like the yearly commitments, like taxes and stuff. So there wasn't really much of a plan, right? But if it was a car that was what, like, it's been used and someone built it and repaired it in their own hands, it's probably like not that expensive, maybe like 5K, like $5,000, which is pretty cheap for a car. And it sounds like the mother got it, like, well, the mother got it very quick, right? They said like as soon, or basically like the next day, or as soon as the cyclist woke up, the mother bought the car. It was just very instant. So yeah, that's mainly why it makes sense. And considering that the car does not sound like it was made of good quality, it's not new, it makes sense for it to have been cheap. Just as a final review of the questions we've answered today, please take a look at the tone of your texts. Whatever feeling the writer is trying to evoke or provoke from you, just keep that in mind, because it gives you a sense of the character and the setting, the plot, and it shows like those components are actually what communicate the overall or overarching message of the text. In terms of poetic writing, it can be quite confusing at times, but it's best to really just take a look at the sentence, look at the context if you're a little confused, which is kind of what we did, so you can just understand what is actually happening and you're not getting a little too caught up in the romanticization of it. So that's it for this week, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.